In this video, we spend 36 hours in the truly awe-inspiring landscape that is California's Redwoods National and State Parks, a hauntingly beautiful collective of wooded areas that are home to some of the oldest and tallest trees in the world. Now this stop, while beautiful, was quite the detour from our loop around California and was not without a few issues along the way. We're starting to figure out why we paid what we paid for this place.
There's no hot water. We can't figure out how to turn it on. We've asked about it. They have not responded.
You know they say mints attract bears.
No, they don't. Because I would just do this.
I'm not gonna teach you that in outdoor school, kids.
No, just stick with me. I got you.
Yeah. So join us as we find out if this wooded whirlwind of a stop was worth it. And if you'd be so kind, please throw a like and a subscribe our way while you're at it. All right, let's get into it. So we have left wine country, probably for our own good, if we're being honest. Probably blow through the rest of our money very quickly there. So now we have gone up to way northern California, Crescent City to be exact. Been making our way up here. We stopped in the town of Eureka, which seemed pretty neat. So if you're unfamiliar with where the Redwoods are and why this was such a big detour for us, it's time for a little geography lesson. The Redwoods are located way the Christ up on the Northern California coast, a whopping 5.5 hours north of San Francisco, and are nestled between the towns of Eureka and Crescent City. Now, in case that didn't put it into clear enough perspective for you, California is fucking massive. This is why our trip to the Redwoods was such a big detour from the rest of our loop around California. We stayed in Crescent City and we stopped in Eureka on the way up there. It's a quiet city with a bustling downtown and a seemingly thriving local culture. For example, we rolled in on a Friday afternoon and the town was setting up for a night market that was taking place that evening with all sorts of artisan vendors, live music. We regretted not staying here as soon as we got to town. Do yourself a favor, make Eureka your base of operations for your Redwoods explorations. And by the way, as a little inside tip, take it from me, somebody who is not the biggest chocolate fan in the world, that the Dick Taylor Chocolate Factory is in fact the real deal. Trust me. We stopped to see the coast a little bit, some redwoods. We're going to be exploring Redwoods National and State Park tomorrow. Our accommodations for the next 2 nights, it's the least we've ever spent, or at least we've spent on this trip. Granted, it's only 2 nights, but still, it's by far, the nightly rate is by far the least we've spent. And it's going to become pretty clear why in a second. Home sweet home. How you doing? This ought to be interesting. A rugged coastline, a cool old lighthouse, and an old-school diner that seems to have stood the test of time are about the only relics remaining that serve as a positive look back in time of days gone by here in Crescent City, California. Empty buildings with boarded-up windows, sketchy characters walking around every corner give way to an overall sense of melancholy, which makes it hard not to feel like Crescent City is, in many ways, abandoned. And while I do believe that the usual seeds of revitalization have been sown in the form of a brewery, a bakery, and a coffee shop, it still has quite a long way to go, but I'm pulling for you, Crescent City. Morning.
Hi.
How you doing?
Great.
Great. What's wrong?
There's no hot water. We can't figure out how to turn it on. We've asked about it. They have not responded.
Yeah.
So, at least we had tea and coffee.
It's true. We've had tea and coffee this morning. We're starting to figure out why we paid what we paid for this place.
Well, it should have been cheaper.
It probably should have been.
No lock on the door.
There's no lock.
You can also get in from the side.
True, yeah. There's a little door over there. Don't mind the mess in here, but that little door over there also doesn't lock. Just gotta sleep with my knife. That's kind of the only strategy there. So we're gonna go see some trees, but first we're gonna stop in town. And after properly fueling up at the aforementioned bakery in town, we began to make our way south, seeing this part of the coast for the first time with some actual sunshine, before getting our first proper, up-close and personal look at the California coastal redwood. And I'll warn you now, if you're the kind of person who is annoyed by people repeating themselves, too bad, because as you'll continue to see in this video, this was the first, but definitely not the last time that these trees would wow us. We are on the Lady Bird Johnson Trail, trying to find some old-growth redwoods. There's no shortage of some big-ass trees. Not an overly strenuous trail, but it is beautiful.
I mean, it's just beautiful. I don't care what kind of trail it is. I'm amongst the forest.
Back in the trees.
The enchanted forest.
can't get over just the sheer mass of these things. Like, just the sheer, that's one tree. That's one motherfucking tree. I mean, the base of this thing has got to be at least 15 feet, if not more. You know, I think we've been struggling today as we've been planning what we're up to the rest of this week. If making the drive up here, National Park and a couple of state parks, they're pretty remote and they're pretty far away from pretty much everything else in the state. And so I think we've been struggling with, right, like if it was worth it to come up here.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Definitely worth it.
I think it's definitely worth it. Anything that makes you realize, like, there's more out there.
Yeah.
Than what you realized, even something you already knew about, like always knew these existed, but to see them is humbling.
In person.
Yeah, it's humbling. What do you think?
I mean, like I said in the beginning, it's like an enchanted forest. It just feels so surreal.
Yeah.
I'm hoping later we get a little bit of the fog, like we saw last night, because that would be kind of cool.
Now, one reason why this may not have been worth it is because Pearl is back to her old tricks of making noises where she sounds like a motorcycle or a big truck. It's a wee bit concerning. Not really sure what's going on, but
Guess we'll see how far we go.
hopefully
If
we
can just get out of this area tomorrow, it'll be fine.
hopefully we make it out of here. We're going to a couple other spots to try and find some old growth redwoods, and we'll see how they stack up. Started up. So far, so good. Trail number 2, you know, just some more big boys for you. No big deal. We're on a trail called, is it Trillium Falls?
Yeah.
A little longer on this one. Obviously not very long, but I have the pack on. We also have our bear spray, as bears have been seen in recent months. They're just black bears, it's fine. Coming up. This guy, holy shit. How old are you? Whew. These things are nuts. We were just saying how this park is up there with, you know, Rocky Mountain National Park and Bryce Canyon National Park as far as sort of the wow factor, where it makes you feel like you're not anywhere that you've ever been before. I just keep going like, ooh, look at that one. Ooh, look at that one. What do you think?
It's beautiful. It's like an enchanted forest.
So what you're saying is it's like an enchanted forest.
Yes. In case you didn't get that.
Now, it cannot be ignored that as beautiful and enchanting as these forests may be, these old-growth redwoods have a very difficult history all their own. European settlers of the mid-19th century seeking fortune in California's gold rush were beyond excited to discover the value of the lumber contained within these giant redwoods, which in turn led to a logging industry that devastated nearly all of the old-growth redwoods that existed in Northern California. This, of course, is in addition to the absolutely brutal treatment, displacement, and near extermination of many native tribes that had existed in this area for thousands of years. Now, from the environmental side at least, in the early 20th century, citizen-led coalitions began efforts to preserve these lands, and swaths of these old-growth redwoods were luckily saved. And these efforts culminated in 1968 when the redwoods would officially be declared a national park. Now, obviously, I don't bring up all this difficult history to be all doom and gloom, rather to paint a more detailed picture, so that when you come here and visit the redwoods, you're not just appreciating the beauty that stands before you, but you hopefully have a deeper and richer appreciation of the beauty that existed here not that long ago. You know, they say mints attract bears.
No, they don't. Because I would just do this.
I'm not going to teach you that in outdoor school, kids.
No, just stick with me. I got you.
No.
I also got the bear spray.
Okay. Every time I see a van, I get a little bit more sad. Especially staying in this camper that we're staying in. It's reminding me of van life and the challenges associated with it, but also like kind of overcoming those challenges and really appreciating it. I don't appreciate our host for this place, like at all, but it's reminding me of van life, which is nice, but it's bittersweet because it's making me miss it even more than I already did. We get back to the car after our hike, and what is directly across from where we're parked is that beautiful son of a bitch right there. And she's fully loaded. That thing is great. I don't know if it's an off-road 4x4. As far as amenities, it's pretty stacked. I would maybe want something a little smaller and a little bit more rugged and kind of nimble. It's a step in the direction. Makes me sad. So we have one more trail. Made our way back up to Crescent City where we're staying.
And a wonderful trailer.
And one of the parks in the Redwood National State Park system is the Jedediah Smith River State Park. I don't know if river's actually in the name, but Jedediah Smith. This is just a short loop that we're doing, but apparently has some of the oldest trees in the area. So I'm hoping to see even bigger trees than what we saw earlier. I thought the ones we saw before were impressive, but I think these are even more massive. They're certainly taller. Some of these are over 2,000 years old, maybe 200 plus feet. Some of them, these are wild looking trees. Now here's an interesting little tidbit of information for you that the National Park Service doesn't publicize too much. If you happen to be visiting here with your partner, there is a very high probability that at some point your partner is going to drop some not so subtle hints that the Redwoods would make a really good place for a wedding ceremony. Don't say I didn't warn you. Sadly though, for now, our time in the Redwoods was coming to an end. So while we've gotten no response from our Airbnb host about our questions regarding hot water or propane for our stove, we did manage to get it lit, so we were able to cook some dinner, and somehow, not exactly sure how, there's hot water. Now we are enjoying a fire, our drinks in hand. So as far as our stop in the Redwood, what do you think?
That was great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
As far as it being worth it versus not worth it, what do you think?
Definitely worth it.
Yeah, I would say so. It adds a lot of driving, but it's something we both wanted to see, and I think we're both very glad that we stopped.
Definitely.
So now we have a very long drive tomorrow. We'll see you in the morning for that. Till then, love you. Bye. Now, if you were so kind as to make it this far in the video, I teased it in the intro, so here it is, the behind the scenes of how the shower situation played out.
How was that?
God damn, that sucks. Whew. Oh shit, can you hear it? Can you hear it? Why are you doing this?
It's the perfect angle because your face is covered.
Why are you doing this to me?
I thought you brought the towel in with you.